because you know why?
Why?
Because it feels right.
It feels right.
Legendary.
Oh, we're here, Adam.
Oh, we are here, and it feels right once again, Robert.
It does, and I don't think we've mentioned this, but the It Feels Right podcast is presented by the Dink. And no, they did not tell me to say that. I'm that good, and I remembered that. Oh yeah, the Dink helps us run this podcast.
Well, Robert, we're so talented, on the court, on the mic that I mean, we can't do the little things. We can't do the editing. We can't do the little clip making that the Dink does. So we're the talent, and we need them, and they do a great job.
Do you know how long it would take me to make one of those clips that they cut for social?
Much shorter amount of time than me.
That's the guy who still can't get his mic set up.
Corinne taught me the other day how to copy and paste.
Oh, that's impressive.
Is that
using the right click, or is that actually using it with the keyboard?
No, the right click. Yeah. So
right click.
That helps in a lot of situations, Rob.
Yeah.
So,
copy paste is very important.
Yeah. So, I feel like I'm, moving up in the world.
It would be really annoying if you had a flip phone, but I think it would be so much more on brand if you had a flip phone.
If I had a flip phone, right? Yeah. Or like a Sidekick? Was that one of the old ones, or a T-Mobile flip phone? Yeah, for sure.
Like a Moto Razr.
Yeah, but I do have like an iPhone 4, and there's 11 iPhones now, so I'm coming through in some form of being old and not in the loop. So you're welcome for that.
What I do appreciate is that you're not a green bubble. I cannot, I just cannot stand green bubbles.
What? Oh, that's the non-iMessage?
Correct.
Oh yeah, that's Prof.
And I just refer to people that don't have iPhones as just, you're a green bubble.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating.
Yeah. Prof has a Google. She's a green bubble. So
so exactly. You're married to a green bubble. I'm sorry.
Yeah. She has a lot of nice qualities. That's obviously not one of them.
And you would think, because she's like kind of the one that pulls you along in terms of technology and learning new stuff and buying new things. And you'd think she would have a blue bubble, but she has a green bubble.
Yeah. She certainly does. So
we need to chat with her on that.
Yeah, we do. And
everybody has their flaws.
Yeah, that's right. So Robert, what are we talking about today besides for what feels right?
Well, you went to Chicago. I semi-watched Chicago from Hawaii. You commentated a lot, correct?
I did. So I commentated Thursday and Sunday, and then I played briefly on Friday and Saturday. So getting back in the swing of things after a few months off. It's really weird that I was unable to finish the tournament, considering I'm a elite professional athlete and phenomenal shape. Lots of those things. So it's very odd that I had to pull out in men's doubles on Saturday after mixed doubles on Friday. So
yeah, I mean, that never happens.
Yeah, very, very odd stuff. I don't know what's going on, but I'll place.
We were chatting a bit. What actually happened with because you said you were throwing up before and after, so like that's not super normal.
Yeah, that's happened before, but it's definitely not super normal. So I'm gonna place full blame on Chris Mills-Miller, legend of the game, who came to our wedding celebration the weekend before, and of course got me and Corinne sick for the week leading up to the tournament. So I'm sure that probably had some factor in there. But yes, I played three matches of mixed doubles with Rosie Johansson, and we had one win squeezed in there. I did some slight vomiting after the first round, and carried over to the next day in men's doubles, who William Sobek was, shout out to him for being a last minute substitute for this punk who pulled out on me a couple days before. It was nice to get back out there. The legs were a little heavy. The hand speed was a little slow, but I had to get back out there at some point. And sorry to my partners for maybe not playing at my full capacity. They played great, and here we are.
Was Rosie just like what is wrong with you? You've played one match.
No, she didn't. I didn't fully, let her know that
Oh, you're hiding in the bushes.
Yes, I was hiding in the bushes, sort of. So,
Yakking.
and she has a nice game. So we had we won a 3-game matchup in the first round, and she had a very nice run in singles the day before, capturing a bronze medal. And so
Nice.
we'll just say I think her legs were a little heavy as well, having played so much singles the day before. So we were, started somewhat strong and had a pretty quick fade.
Faded hard.
Faded hard. So, like I said, fun to get back out there, and planning on playing a lot moving forward. The calf held up nicely, and
That's important.
That's a good silver lining for the weekend.
And you and William Sobek, did you guys play the Minnesota guys first round? Is that it?
We did. We played.
Okay.
We played
So that was a little bit of that was a kind of an interesting story over the weekend. They had some nice wins over, Thomas and DJ and a couple others, I believe. But talk about those guys.
Yeah, so I will, and I'm catching the name. I know one name was Don Kina.
Yeah.
And man, my iPad is messing with me. But anyway, it's actually so I kind of recognized the name, and then I got on court with him, and I actually recognized the face, and I realized that I coached college tennis against him. So he was playing at Gustavus Adolphus, which is a Division III school, while I was coaching at the University of Texas at Tyler. So so I coached against him in college tennis. He was one of the better players in Division III. And to be honest with you, I think Division III gets a bad rap sometimes, especially at the top end.
Yeah.
The depth is not great at the Division III level. The talent kind of fades. But what Division III is a lot of private schools, and a lot of those tennis players coming out of high school. Do they go to a middling or smaller Division I, or do they go to the Division III and kind of have more of a well-rounded college experience? So I think actually at the top end, especially
nerds.
Yeah, right. The top end, the top 10, top 15 teams in Division III are actually quite a bit of talent.
They're D1 quality.
They're
the top teams in D3 are D1 quality for sure.
Good. So I'm glad that you think the same thing. So even though he's not a Dekel tennis background, or maybe Thomas Wilson, who went to the University of Texas, but very talented tennis player. And to be honest with you, he really smacked the ball. Don Kina. He played left, and when the ball went up high, or he was driving his third shot, he hits the ball about as hard as anyone. So definitely a shot maker. Kind of, I would say that he made some mistakes in the soft game, especially in the second game against Sobek and myself, but talented player. The right side player was very solid, didn't do anything special, but had good hands, made a lot of cross-court dinks. And then Don Kina kind of did his thing, jumped in there, few ernies, few really nice speed ups, and a lot of power when it went up high. So just another talented team jumping in there and making some waves. It was cool to see.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love like when you open the bracket and you just like, what, who? And I think it's just good for the game, right? And two, it's like, we always talk about to be a top team, you need to be able to practice against top teams and see their stuff and see their disguises and see how they play. And they kind of showed that. Yeah, they're not. This isn't like the first time they play pickleball, right? Like I'm pretty sure like they're teaching pros and probably play quite a bit. Just don't play much on the pro circuit. But it was cool to see that they can come out and without seeing a ton of high level pickleball, in practice and still do really well and get some nice wins.
Right, and I browsed through a NML article, and they mentioned that Don Kina played with a different partner in a PPA event and actually upset Ben Newell and Pat Smith. So there's some form of background there, even though it's a very, very small tournament resume for those players.
Yeah.
But definitely it was, I mean, that they were pretty much full-fledged no names, and that is a rarity we always see, players that have been around for a little while taking steps forward, whether it's getting a better partner or just improving their game. But this was definitely out of nowhere. And I mean, Thomas Wilson and DJ Young, phenomenal team, end up getting bronze. We know all about some of DJ's results recently. Thomas Wilson partnering up with AJ Kohler frequently to get on the medal stand. So to beat that team handily in the quarterfinals is very impressive. Much more impressive than beating Sobek and myself.
No, I think it was 6-0, and I was like, oh, whoa. Which, also at the same time, as talented as DJ and Thomas are, probably two of the most talented guys on tour, in my opinion, in terms of just raw athletic ability. They can also have a pretty low floor in terms of if they're not vibing or into it, or they get frustrated a little bit. They're also a team that can not manage that very well at times. So,
yes, no, I definitely agree with that. I think I saw somewhere online it was the DJ Young experience. So it can be spectacular.
High highs, low lows.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So the DJ Young experience, ladies and gentlemen, and yeah. So we might as well talk a little bit more. Started off with the pro men's doubles.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up here. As it's obviously not working for me. So I was there for a lot of it. I watched a lot of it the days that I played and commentated the Thursday singles and the Sunday championship Sunday. So I mentioned Thomas Wilson and DJ Young getting bronze, and then in the gold medal match on championship Sunday, we had Dekel and JW Johnson coming through the opportunity bracket after losing to Andre Daescu and Dylan Frazier in the winner bracket final. So in that match, JW and Dekel were able to force the game to 15, but ended up losing handily in that game to 15. And what really stood out to me was the really, really quality play of Dylan Frazier in that matchup. And we know Dekel. We know all four players, and we know Andre loves that left side. He often takes a lot of court on the left side, but by the end of that match, it was almost 50-50 left to right because Dylan was just playing so well on the right side and really winning a lot of hands battles and playing a great match.
Yeah, and I think one thing we've seen this year, I don't know if it's been talked about a lot, but Andre, in the past couple of years, he's played very select few tournaments, right? And stayed mainly kind of in Florida where he lives. And this year, I think, I saw him at MLP in Newport, and he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to play 20, 22, 23 tournaments this year. I'm like, whoa, like that's a heavy schedule. But he's going for it. He's playing a ton. And I think, the rankings and the standings reflect that. I think he's probably top 5 in the APP standings now. So getting a ton of solid results as much as he's playing, and he's getting better, right? Because he's actually getting more reps, getting more tournament experience, and he's having a great year. So shout out to Andre because impressive stuff, and also it's he's not a young guy either. I think he's probably close to my age and staying fit, staying healthy, and playing good pickleball. And Dylan had a hell of a weekend too, right?
Yeah, big time stuff from Dylan. And just to touch a little bit on Andre, you're exactly right. And he's always had that all around game where he really maybe doesn't do anything spectacular, but really doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. The hand speed's fine, the solid soft stuff fine. He can scramble as a big man to scramble and back up good in the land of opportunity and all the way back at the baseline. So no real weaknesses from him, and to see him commit to playing more and also having the fitness. I mean, he probably went for 25, 30 ernies, always had the intense footwork, never looked to get fatigued at any moment in the match. So to play more and be more, physically fit, you can see the results. So good for him.
Yeah, for sure. So Dylan's weekend, golden men's. What else did he have? He had
a 4th place in singles.
Okay.
In a very deep draw of, goodness gracious, 36, 38 players in a very deep singles draw. So to get fourth there, obviously a little heartbreaking to get that fourth place. I've had plenty of those to miss out on the stand, but to do that and then to get gold in mixed doubles with Anna Bright as well, and to play right side in men's, play left side in mixed, and to almost medal in a deep singles field. Very impressive from the young buck out of Missouri, to be a big threat in all three facets of the game.
Yeah, totally. On that note, J-Dub, a little obviously still a great weekend, but fell short in all his matches on Sunday, right? So grabbed silver in all of them. So, and you were there. What was kind of what's your take on that?
I don't think JW played his best. I mean, let's be clear. I said it on the stream as well. He's in 3 championship Sundays. Yeah. He was in singles, mixed, and men's, but he was the bridesmaid in all 3, and forcing games to 15 in all 3 events as well. So had to quick mental fact check there, but phenomenal weekend to get 3 silvers and be on the medal stand in all 3 events. But I do think that he didn't play his best, and I am not exactly sure why that is. This is pickleball. We all know some days you feel like you can't miss. Some days you feel like you can't make a ball. So there's not always an exact reason. Sometimes you just don't have your feel there. So don't think he played bad by any means, but definitely I have seen him more locked in before, and that can be a variety of reasons. I talk about it quite a bit, as well as, you can have that casual, smooth, nothing feels difficult kind of vibe that JW has, but occasionally I do think that could leak into his footwork and his intensity out there. So while it is advantage for a lot of reasons, I think sometimes that lack of intensity and that calmness that JW shows in his personality could possibly leak into some of that physical intensity with the footwork and the preparation for his shots.
Come out a little flat occasionally.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And so in singles, he lost to Fed. Is that right?
Yes, and I did not know this, but after that match, I believe it was Kyle Yates, who I passed by going to grab a water, who said that he was 0-13 against JW Federico.
Is that correct?
I don't know.
I thought Fed had beaten JW.
Kyle made it seem like it was a long losing streak snapped there by Federico, who JW did come from the opportunity bracket and did force that game to 15, but Federico too much. Really impressed with Federico's intensity.
Yeah.
Very full physical commitment to all the points, all the shots while he was out there, but also mentally. He was the quickest player to get to the line and be ready to serve. He was showing his opponents that he's not going anywhere. And it was really impressive to not only see how 100% he was for every point physically, but mentally as well. And he was rewarded with a big win in Chicago. Kudos to Federico.
You know who getting to the line quickly to serve reminds me of?
Who's that?
Ryan Sherry.
Right. the Share Bear. and you can say whatever you want to about Share Bear, but when he's out there, he's pretty mentally tough as well.
Once the ball's in play, he's really mentally tough.
Yeah, man. He's
but between points, he will take his sweet ass time.
For sure. I still remember him putting both hands up on the back fence a couple times, just fully panting, fully trying to catch his breath. But yeah, you're right. So
just kicking the ball around, chasing the ball, can't pick it up. Slippery little ball, that thing.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I remember that move in tennis. Bounce it off my foot for sure.
And then
slowly walk to get it.
Yes.
Well, I mean, your shoes. I mean, your shoes are important. You got to keep them laced up properly. Come on, Rob.
And then in men's, it was Dylan, Andre beat J-Dub and Dekel. I would say J-Dub and Dekel were the ones seed, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, so they actually weren't. They were, but they weren't. They did the flip. So they
Okay.
flipped for the 1 and 2 seed. There's a couple changes in the draws in terms of what side of the back draw you go to, and a couple coin flips as well. And they talked about that with the player committee. And to be honest with you, I should probably have more information on this, considering my wife is on the player committee. But that's that's something that I'll have to chat with her about, as there was a couple differences in the draws here in Chicago as opposed to some of the previous APPs.
Right on. And so, but with the JW Dekel, what was your take on that final and what that looked like? And because I would, if, I think the Vegas line would probably have JW and Dekel as favorites on that one.
Definitely.
So I would call that a minor upset.
Yeah, no, on paper, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think there's any way to avoid putting Dekel and JW as the favorites in that match. They did not switch around. Neither team switched around at all. It was a set lineup of Dylan Frazier on the right, Andre on the left, and the same for JW and Dekel, with JW on the left and Dekel on the right. Really, JW in his entire career has never consistently played right side, and Dekel has.
Yep.
The first couple years of our partnership. And I think they waffled back and forth a little bit in their first few tournaments, and now they've settled with right side Dekel, left side JW. I thought Dekel played fine, had some nice counters, had some really nice scorpions where he drops low and just kind of slaps that counter attack when Andre in front of him was speeding up. So I thought Dekel played fine. Nothing. He didn't do anything spectacular or take over the match, but it's very hard to do that on the right side. So JW was probably a little more inconsistent with the dinking than I've seen, and just played okay. Didn't play poorly, didn't play great. So that's what I saw with that matchup. And while Andre really took a lot of court to start, as I mentioned, that they kind of went to a 50-50 kind of partnership with Andre on the left and Dylan on the right. And Dylan's backhand in the middle was very quick, and he won several exchanges and had some really nice combinations. So that's pretty much what happened. I do think Dylan was probably the best player on the court in that matchup. Certainly don't think I can call him the best player in general, but in this instance, in this match, I really believe that he was.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, for Dylan to go from right side men's to left side mixed and take gold in both, that's not as easy as it seems. Being a really good, I would consider Dylan a really good right side player, one of the probably top tier in the game, purely because he sits more continental grip. So his back, similar to me, like I like my backhand counters. So I like being on the right in those instances. Don't like my forehand dink very much, but backhand counters, very similar to Dylan. That's kind of what we sit on. So if you catch Dylan on the right side and on his forehand, that face will be open sometimes and he'll sail him long. But if you're attacking middle into his backhand or his body, he's got some of the fastest hands in the game in that respect, and it's not going to work out very often. But yeah, to see him have success on the right in men's and then also on the left in mixed is it's just shows how well-rounded of a player he is. And he obviously moves really well. And especially for his size, he's not a huge guy, but he moves very well laterally and mixed, covers a lot of court. And, with his hands, he can initiate and clean stuff up pretty well. So big props to him and Anna taking gold, because what seed were they? I think they were a little bit of a lower seed too.
Let's check it out. Why is this? Why?
It doesn't matter, to be honest.
Pickleball tournaments just not doing it for me here on the iPad. I'm the iPad guy, and I'm failing. I apologize.
We need a third person that's just purely a fact checker for us, and we say whatever we want, and we can have a little tally on the screen about how many times we've actually just made stuff up.
The Joe Rogan guy. Joe Rogan has one.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't we?
Jamie.
Come on.
Come on, Jamie.
And one last thing on Dylan. I do think that he is one of the best crab walkers in the game. Yeah. So the crab walk, for those who don't know, is the lateral movement right at the kitchen line.
Yeah.
AJ Kohler, very, very good with it. So you're not turning and running. So it's all shuffle and it's all lateral movement, and it's super important especially in mixed doubles, to keep the pressure on with those 4th, 6th, 8 shots, and really also when your partner or your female partner is cross court dinking, that little crab walk over to the middle to be offensive is super important, and great footwork from Dylan throughout the tournament.
And similar with Kohler, the one thing that exceptional crab walkers are susceptible to is the lob, because they're so good moving laterally that they're usually focused on that, and it's a little tougher to move to the back. So you can catch Kohler. I haven't seen as much with Dylan, but you can catch those guys with lobs pretty often, which is ironic considering how much Kohler lobs.
Right, and they're just so wide. So Kohler's lower body stance is about as wide as anyone, and like you said, you are giving up backward movement for better lateral movement.
Yeah,
and another small factor on that as well, as neither one has an extensive tennis background, and non-tennis players do
just
not
backpedal.
And they don't move back, and they don't have as much power on their overheads either.
Yeah.
So it's just a fact.
Yep.
And while neither one of them is has that extensive tennis background, they both cover their chest, their neck, and their face about as much better than any tennis player can. So
100%.
There's always these little things, right? Exactly. Give and take, this and that. Tennis players come around the ball into space much better, but they don't cover their bodies as well. And you see AJ Kohler and Dylan Frazier covering. Boom! It's just right here, and it's very impressive. So you're always giving and taking by doing these things, and just as long as you know what you're giving and getting, there it is.
Yeah, I think they'd probably be okay with covering laterally as they do, and being a little susceptible to the lob, because it's the lateral movement at kitchen and mixed especially is super important.
Yeah, for sure. So no, definitely. That's pretty much how I saw that men's doubles final, and two very good teams, and I just think with all 4 of those players, there's not a lot to pick on.
Yeah,
there just isn't. There's no real weaknesses out there, and really high quality match, just like most of them were throughout Championship Sunday with 4 games to 15.
And how'd the ladies go? What was the ladies' side looking like?
So the ladies, we had a shout out to so we had the ladies with Andrea Coop and Lauren Stratman actually losing first round as the number 1 seed to not what you would expect as a first round loss is a huge upset. They ended up playing the Kawamotos, who we know are a very, very solid team. So it was kind of one of those situations of maybe a bye as a blessing and a curse. It stops you from having more court time, which obviously is a huge deal with so many players being so good. But at the same time, you kind of come in without a match, and your opponents come in already having a match under their belt. And I think that's what we saw there. With the Kawamotos winning in 3, and then Coop and Stratman coming all the way back through the opportunity bracket and actually capturing gold, double dipping Anna Bright and Georgia Johnson.
Interesting.
And in that match, another one to the game to 15, and Coop and Stratman were able to get it done. I actually watched some of that first round Kawamoto match, and I don't believe Lauren Stratman played her best in that match, and she played much, much better in the gold medal match, obviously because they were able to double dip Anna Bright and Georgia Johnson.
Do we just think experience prevailed there?
Yeah, I think so. And I actually, was talking about how Coop is of that foursome, very much known as the more of the solid player, and Anna Bright, Georgia Johnson, and Lauren Stratman,
all fire,
are all known as more peaks and valleys player, where they have flashes of brilliance and then occasionally a few minutes of inconsistencies creeping in. And to be honest with you, I was very wrong, because I think Coop was the most aggressive player on the court. So she was starting firefights, as we know in the women's game, lots of firefights, lots of extended exchanges, and it was a very, very high level match, and great job by Stratman and Coop getting it done in the end. I think probably one of the big factors, I think Georgia Johnson did have a few extra unforced errors that were mixed in that match that were a big factor. But Coop and Stratman did not miss a lot, and their hands were very much on point.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I saw some of that one, and I saw Georgia. Georgia just was missing a little bit more than typical, and it looked like she was trying to pull the trigger a little, at inopportune times. Sometimes, and yeah, it just felt like Coop pulling the trigger is fun.
Yeah, no,
you don't get it all the time. She's usually, like you said, a rock and doesn't miss very much. And there's on the men's side, used to always talk about when Steve Deacon was playing a lot. It's like, exactly what you're going to get from Steve Deacon when you play a tournament. There's not going to have flashes of brilliance. You just know he's going to make a ton of thirds. He's got fast hands. He's going to counter well. He's going to make a ton of dinks. He's just, exactly what you're going to get. Right. And I feel like Coop's similar in that respect on the women's side. Like, she's going to make a ton of balls. She's got good hands. She's going to counter well, but you don't see her initiating that often. So, developing the game.
For sure. There's times. Yeah. There's offensive players, there's defensive players, but when we get in that happy spot where we can do a little bit of both, that's when the situation calls for it, that really is the happy place. And, shout out and props to Stratman as well, because while Coop did a great job speeding up, she often goes, probably more so than any top level pro, cross court with those speed ups and cross court with those counters. And it's very important for her partner to be ready. Because a lot of times when she, maybe doesn't hit her cross court attack or counter exactly like she wants to, that ball gets to her partner pretty quickly. And a good job by Stratman being ready in those firefights to handle that pace.
Yeah, that's a good point. Probably one that's overlooked by probably people watching, just viewing, is how important it is. Because you can attack and then your partner misses and you're like, oh, well, that's on them. Nah, I mean, not always, right? It's like,
not always.
Yeah. So oftentimes it's, where you attack, how you attack, who you attack. And your partner, and you have to be on the same page in terms of, okay, this is like when you and I play, you're like, go at them, I'm going to be ready.
Right. Right.
It's like, it's just expectations.
Yes, no, definitely. And you need to know who you're playing with. And, sometimes you're playing with someone and you don't have to worry about the cross court attacks because they don't really do them. And then you need to know who your partner is, and you need to know who your opponents are, because every situation is different. And that's really important. And coming all the way through from that first round loss, great job by Coop and Stratman to dig out that gold. Never easy to come back through at any point, especially when you lose first round. And
the added pressure of having to double dip.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. It's 2 matches. You got to win the 2 out of 3 and the 15. And it's just never easy.
It's never a good feeling either, getting to the winners, getting to that gold match, knowing that you have a cushion. So there's a ton of pressure on the winning team too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody.
You lose that first when you're like, oh, going to the 15.
Yeah. And, I was going to give the shout out to Prof and Ansbury as well, who earlier in the tournament had a really good opportunity to upset Georgia Johnson and Anna Bright. They were ahead in game 3 for a majority of the game and ended up losing 11-9 at the end. What a difference a year makes. Corinne and Ansbury a year ago would have been the favorites, and now they're very much the underdog. So almost got that upset, but a lot of things change in 1 year, and you can see them being favorites to being underdogs, and almost caught them in the quarterfinals. So good job, Prof. Get them next time.
Get them next time, Prof. That's what makes this fun, though, is that it makes it exciting as viewers as well, that the game's changing that rapidly, right? Because favorites are changing every week. So.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
And it's just going to keep happening, I think at probably a greater rate.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so we have the APP Metro coming up this weekend. And last year I played with Jay Delivers, and we ended up playing the kids, JW and Dylan. And it wasn't we ended up losing in the bronze medal match, and it wasn't a disaster by any means, but that was an upset.
Yeah, it was an upset.
I mean, that was an upset. And
for sure.
I think most people would consider Jay and myself at that moment better than the first, in some order, the first and the second best men's doubles player on that court, and JW and Dylan being the third and the fourth. And I think as of right now, it's pretty clear cut that
that's flip.
That Dylan and JW would be some combination of 1 and 2 in that, and then I would be a clear cut number 3, and then Jay Delivers would be a clear cut number 4 men's doubles player on that court. I hope Jay's listening. Really
hair chest.
Yeah, hair chest. Yeah. So 1 year, 1 year, big difference in the rankings.
Have we told the hair chest story?
Yes, I believe we have.
Of course we have.
No, we have to, because it was just so good.
But we told it on here? Or we told it somewhere else? I know we talked about it recently, but was it on the podcast?
I know I've talked about it recently, so I'm going to guess it was on here. And
it was probably on here. Short-term memory, not great.
Not fantastic at all. So let's see here. Okay, yeah. So we'll touch on the singles quickly, because singles is not as exciting as doubles. Yeah. So we had Salome Devidze really looking good out there, catching Anna Bright in the championship Sunday to take gold. Anna Bright silver, and Rosie Johansson bronze, who is kind of a newer player, had a really good tennis career at the University of Virginia, and who actually beat Anna Bright earlier in the day, but lost to her in that second matchup. And Salome Devidze really doing a good job. She was almost a full-fledged baseliner early in her career, and she's getting a little better feel at the kitchen line, kind of mixing in her spots when to come forward. And she has a nice, solid 5'9", 5'10" wingspan up there. Yeah. She was around 250 in the world in singles and doubles in tennis out of the country of Georgia. So a really solid player. And just a couple months that I've seen her play, she has made some adjustments and some tweaks to her game. So she is very much a force on the singles scene.
And I think that's probably that was interesting you said. It's probably an underlooked aspect of women's singles is size and height and wingspan, because like we talked about before, surely the reason that women versus men, like women don't always come in off the return. You'll 99.9% see men come in off the return. Mm-hmm. The reason women don't do that typically is because, well, one, the server has really good passing shots typically, and two, women are just typically smaller. They have shorter wingspan. They're not as tall. It's harder to cover balls at the kitchen line. But when you have somebody that's 5'9", 5'10", good wingspan, moves well, and can have good reach of the kitchen line, you're like, points are won at the kitchen, period. If you can cover, points are won at the kitchen. So the person staying back is typically going to lose that, as long as the person at the kitchen has a decent wingspan. And Salome does. So I think that's going to be a little bit of the evolution in women's singles, is seeing kind of the 5'9", 5'10", 5'11" women come in that can still move well, cover a lot of court. And I think singles will eventually be dominated by women like that.
100% agree. And the men, it's a little bit different, because I could see more of a variety of shapes and sizes, more common talking about length with the guys, as you see it in tennis. You see some 5'10", 6-foot guys with a lot of success, and you see a lot of 6'4" and 6'5" guys with a lot of success too. And the women's, they're all right around 6 foot. You don't really see a 5'4" girl very frequently out there.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And we saw that with the medalists too. We have Rosie Johansson at 5'4". We have Anna Bright at 5'7", and we have Devidze at 5'10". So we see a little bit of all of that reach throughout the medalists. And I think you're exactly right, Robert. I think that there's going to be a pretty prototypical type women's singles player moving forward. And if you're not, say, maybe just an arbitrary cutoff, you're not 5'8" plus, you better have a really, really strong game, because you are at a disadvantage.
You're going to have to be really good at cat and mouse, right? Like, you're going to have to be good at dropping and moving that tall person around. You don't think it's going to be the same in the men's?
I just think that, the lower end of the men's is height wise is probably me, at like around the 5'8", and 5'8", 5'10", say 5'8" to 5'10". So I just think that the shorter guys at 5'10" still have a good shot of coming forward and being successful.
Agreed.
The shorter girls are at 5'2", 5'3", 5'4". That's a big difference.
I guess my question is, let's say you have like a 6 foot guy, and then let's call it a 6'5" guy comes in, super athletic.
Right.
Do you see much of an advantage for like that 6'5" guy for playing a 6 foot guy, or is it pretty neutral?
So I would say slight advantage for the low end guy around 6 foot and the higher end guy at 6'5", 6'6". A slight advantage. The lower end girl and the higher end girl, I think, is a big advantage, if that makes sense at all. Makes sense. So the range of short to tall, slight advantage for the guys, big advantage for the girls, in my opinion. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll let's go ahead and move over to the men's pro singles, and we talked about it briefly with Staksrud. Ended up beating JW Johnson. JW Johnson losing in the semifinals, I believe, to Ignatowicz, who was struggling physically very much throughout this singles. He did some vomiting, and he definitely, you could tell in the bronze medal match where he played JW Johnson the second time, he was very, very fatigued. And JW much less so was the deciding factor in that match.
Are we talking fitness or illness?
Fitness. We're talking fitness. Yes. So
it was legit fitness.
Right. So I did a couple interviews with him throughout the day, and he mentioned in between interviews that he's, back at school, a little less time to fully commit to the fitness aspect, which obviously is so huge, especially in singles. I talked about the 30-something men's draw when you're playing.
No, it's massive for singles.
You're playing Jake Kuzmeter second round or something, who is a legit singles player and has a chance to beat anyone. So Ignatowicz definitely was fading throughout that singles day, and I have no idea if he would have beat JW or not the second time, but his fitness kind of sealed his fate as JW was pretty much fresh as a daisy, able to win that bronze medal match and move on to championship Sunday.
Do you feel that singles draw is too big with the come around?
I feel like the doubles draw is too big. So for sure the singles draw is too big. And I just don't see how at some point they're not going to have some form of set rankings where a top whatever amount of players get in, and then they have a feed in bracket where they play the day before to maybe get the last 8 guys or something like that. Because if we start getting into the 40s and we're playing this in one day, I just don't see how it's possible. I just don't see how they're not going to have to get it situated in some capacity. I have no idea.
30 plus teams, 40 plus teams is wild.
Yeah, maybe if it starts getting into that 40s and 50s teams that want to sign up, maybe you do. I don't know, just 24 for sure get in, and then you play for 8 spots of the you have some qualifying draw that you play for the final 8 spots or something along those lines.
Yeah, you don't even have to lose revenue on it, right? Like, just don't make it all the main draw. Like they do that. Don't they do like the shootout now ahead of time for some extra cash? Make that the qualies,
right?
Play in that to earn your way into the main draw. But to have a draw of a draw of 64 is just too big for pickleball. Like, we're talking about a one-day event. We're not talking about a tennis tournament that's over 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about getting all these matches done in one day, which is kind of a wild thing coming from tennis into pickleball. You're like, oh, we play all of this whole tournament today, like all our matches today.
Yeah,
and we don't know what time we're going to play them today.
Yeah. No, for sure. And
like that stuff needs to be cleaned up, in my opinion. It's still a mess. It's still, and I think we're going that way. And I think people are aware of it. It's just a matter of, making the change and creating a new way to go about things.
I agree completely, Rob. And especially with that I was in the booth for singles, the bottom line is the first half of the day, Okay, so the draws are so deep with so many quality players that the first half of the day, the matches were way more quality. By the end, the points are shorter. People's legs are heavy. There's barely any cat and mouse rallies because everyone's dead. So
it's a good point. It's really good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously affecting the product in singles. And once we start having these tighter, longer points in doubles, I just don't see how the same thing's not going to happen a little bit, at least in doubles. So, it's early on. We've just really started to deal with this, the last handful of months or the last whatever. So it definitely something that needs to get situated, whether it's 2-day events or a qualifying draw or just some way to cap the length of the days and the amount of court hours that you're out there as a pro.
Yeah, I think we're getting into risking players' health too, especially on the single side when you have draws that big. It's I don't think it's great. So hopefully we can fix that. Tighten up the draws, make people earn their way into it rather than just paying to get into a pro event. I think that's how it should be, right? Earn your way in and make it worth it. And also now you're not going to have, top 5, top 10 pros playing guys that literally just wanted to be on the court with them, so they paid the $150 to be in the event. That's got to be removed too, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's, I think it's maybe for some period of time, it's a cool thing about the situation, but eventually you have to make the adjustment when things change. So I agree completely. I think that's just going to have to be a thing of the past, even though it, might have been a cool aspect very early on in this sport being, a pro sport.
Yeah. And I've been away from APP tournaments for a minute, but I know last year there was a lot of frustration, at least from the pro players, whether it was voiced or not. I'm usually the one that voices it. I'm usually the one that's not afraid to say stuff while other people don't want to really ruffle feathers. But it's no secret that, I think having senior pros on the live stream is just not a good product to have on for pickleball. And also, especially when, you're making people wait for those matches on the championship court, that kind of thing. How have things changed this year? Are senior pros still a big feature on the APP tour? Like, what's the vibe and aspect now? Because I don't see as much of it on the live stream.
Well, let's be clear. When it comes to that kind of things, this is a good cop, bad cop situation, and I'm the good cop, and I'm the good cop. Okay? When it comes to
the voice of reason. And
yes, when it comes to controversial things. So yes, that's been a calling card of the APP from day one is all inclusive, and having a good line of communication with the pro players, but also having a senior pro player council. So I definitely don't know all the details of that, but of course the senior pros need to have some voice in what happens. I don't know if that should be because it's part of the sport. It's a huge demographic of the sport is that age. And while I still think obviously most players, even a lot of the older players, would rather watch the regular pros play, there is some amount of people that do really enjoy watching players of their same age compete. So I don't think it's a zero, but obviously you can look at the streams, the numbers, and the people watching live, and they're very much more into the pro play than the senior pro play.
Yeah, so I guess in my view, we're at a point in the sport where, I just glanced at the live stream over the weekend. You had 2,000 people watching in for a regular pro match, and it's very low if we're talking grand scheme of like where we think pickleball is going to go. Even if right now I think they're estimating 5 million players playing pickleball as a participatory sport in America. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 2,000 people watching, top level pickleball at the pro level on a live stream. It's so wildly low that I just imagine somebody, tunes in for the first time and they see senior pro pickleball. or just, sorry, I can't say senior pro, senior pickleball. And, and that's their first taste of this sport at the highest level. And that's a shame, in my opinion.
No, I got you. I totally hear where you're coming from.
I like how you say I got you. I totally hear, but I don't agree. But you did not say I agree.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get where you're coming from for sure. And I think APP's done a better job where they actually do not have, they have basically Championship Court 1 to be exclusively pro play, or almost exclusively pro play, and then they will have Championship Court 2 that has some kind of early play where they will mix and match senior pro and regular pro, and then they will show the senior pro medal matches on Championship Court 2. So
sure,
I think it's a solid way to go to include everyone, but also definitely, put your most important product, which is, regular pro play at the forefront on Championship Court 1.
And I'll be clear here. I don't think there's zero value in senior pro. I guess my argument is that it should not be taken away or shared in a sense with the pros, with their pro tour. So in terms of prize money, you look at, I think Chicago was a $50K. I'm thinking pros got 35 maybe, and senior pros got 15. I don't know what that exact split is, but I think that's the ballpark. Mm-hmm. And the way I see that is that's 15K. That's going to people that are already established in life, that already have had established careers for 30 years and are maybe retired and don't need the money, and they're doing it as a hobby. And that's honestly what it is for people that age. It's a hobby. And meanwhile, you have 20-year-olds struggling to survive on a week by week basis. And that's prize money that's being taken from people that actually need it to pursue their dreams and to pursue being a pro athlete and to turn this into a viable living.
Rob, I think that's a great point. And for sure, it could be, yeah. So say that percentage of prize pool is thrown fully into the pros. Maybe you get a very talented player that decides to make the commitment to the game and could be a big asset or maybe be a huge factor in the regular pro game. But because he has kind of paid attention to some prize pool and did a little bit of quick math, maybe he decides he doesn't want to commit to it because it's just not quite worth it. So I do think that taking away from the pro game is very bad in almost all aspects. So to find that happy, perfect medium, I'm not sure what it is, but I think that it's viable to give them their place and not take away from pro pickleball at the same time.
Well, I just think they need to be separated. So the same way when you look at a PPA prize pool, that it includes all of the appearance fees for the contracted players, like that needs to be separated out too, right? Don't include that in your total prize purse, because if I'm signing up and I'm not a contracted player, I don't actually, that's actually not the prize purse. That's up for winning. You know what I mean? That, call it a quarter of that money is already spoken for and going to players already. So that's not the purse. So similar vein to APP, like you need to market, if you're going to market the Chicago Open presented by Lexus and put J-Dub and Dekel on the cover of that with a big 50K, like you can't have 15K of that. It's actually 35K, right? Or what I don't know the actual numbers, but you get my point. You're using the pros to market that, and they're getting a smaller percentage of that. My only point is separate them, right? Like if you want to have a senior pro tour, have a senior pro tour. This is what their prize money is. But for, to market a tournament as 50K and a percentage of that go to the pros and actually be up for grabs for pros, it's a little misleading. And I even saw an article that said, I think it was maybe the Chicago newspaper, like local Chicago newspaper, that said the winner's going to walk away with 50K. Like it's all like, and obviously that reporter just didn't do their homework and look into it. But when you see that, even people here in Hawaii are like, oh, 50K purse, like you could have a great weekend. I'm like, It's not, you're not, it's not 50K to the winner here. It's 50K divided by a lot of events.
Sure.
So I just feel like, there needs to be, and I'm not saying the APP is not being transparent. I think they're very transparent. I think, out of the two tours, they do a phenomenal job in terms of transparency and explaining exactly what you win for each place, for each event. They do great. My point is that I think it needs to be, if it's a 50K tournament, there needs to be 50K to the pros.
No, it's a good point, and I have no idea if there is possibly something in the works, or maybe that is the master plan, a year, 3 years, whatever it is down the line, to separate the two. But right now, it is not separated, and I think it is somewhere in the ballpark of 2-to-1 pro to senior pro, and that's very rough estimate. So not positive, but I could see that, just like whatever golf and tennis are the easiest sports to go to in terms of progression, like pickleball is doing, to separate those tours and have different tournaments and at different times in different venues and all that. So I would imagine that it will get to that point eventually if the sport continues to grow, which I'm almost certain that it will. So we'll just have to monitor that and keep tabs on that with the tours and what kind of separation the pros and senior pros have.
Yeah, I love you, senior pros.
I heart seniors. Where's my shirt? Dave Furman was going to give me, yeah, for sure. I heart senior. Dave Furman was going to give me a shirt that said "I heart seniors." So I'm still waiting for that, Dave. If you're listening,
I love Dave Furman.
Hook me up. Yeah, the first couple of commentary gigs I had, I did a lot of senior pro, and I do have love for them, but it's a different game. It's a piece of the pie. It's a different game, and who knows how that pie is going to get divvied up. It's always a point of contention and a work in progress.
Yeah, I just don't think you see it in any. I don't want to go on this too long, but you just don't see it in any other sports in terms of I like the inclusive aspect as well. Like, that's great, but make senior pro like Moneyball. Like, entry fees are still expensive, right? Like throw your money into a pot and let the winners take it. And that's that. And on the pro side, you have the purse, from the money generated, and that's the true purse of the tournament for the pros.
I like it. I think you're right. Let's move on to something else. Let's no, great talk, Rob, but let's move on to something else.
It was a nice talk.
So let's touch on the pro mixed real fast to wrap up our recap of the Chicago Open. So we had quite a few different teams actually this tournament. So we had Vivian, David, and Hunter Johnson. We had Simone Jargin and Federico Staksrud. We had Dekel Bar and Jade Kawamoto, just to name a few. I know I'm missing one or two there as well. But in the gold medal match, we had the Johnson siblings versus Dylan Frazier and Anna Bright. And they came up short in the game to 15. The Johnsons kind of steamrolled through the main draw and were eventually double dipped in that gold medal match. So several different matchups. Hunter Johnson and Vivian David ended up beating Federico Staksrud and Simone Jargin early on, but neither of those teams were able to make it to the medal rounds. So and interesting to see the new matchups and the new teams.
Not taking anything away from Hunter, I think he just got picked up for MLP, right? Mm-hmm. So big props to him, and he's obviously improving a ton. But I think it just goes to show, like that mixed doubles matchup just goes to show, and we talk about it a lot, you're strong as your female, right? Like having a really strong female kind of outweighs, like you can have a lower level guy if you have a really strong female and still get results. So just shows like how strong Viv is. And yeah, I think that just kind of proves the point when I saw it, because I think Hunter and Yates didn't have a great tournament. I think maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I believe they went 0-2. And so let's actually talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
kind of because we saw it in the gold medal match too, the sibling pairing and possibly a significant other pairing. So I think this happens a lot in pickleball. And I did not see it, but I think that the Johnson twins were a little at each other in their men's doubles in terms of possibly their relationship and some off-court stuff leaking on court. And I think there was a little bickering going on between the two. So while I think as a sibling pair, obviously the Johnsons, there is some advantages and kind of some sixth sense stuff going on. It's also very difficult as well. So, JW and Georgia constantly together. I'm sure the Johnson twins together all the time. A lot of
time with another person.
Yeah, a lot of time with another person. You saw myself and Prof, having some really good results and then very much fading, at the end of last year and beginning of this one. So,
and anybody that plays pickleball out there, you guys all know how, pickleball is an interesting sport, even more so than like doubles tennis, where you're in such close proximity with somebody else and everything they do on the court affects you. And it's really difficult to vibe and find that happy balance of, support. And also, it's you just see a lot of conflict on pickleball courts at times. You see a lot of joy and a lot of happiness and a lot of camaraderie. But man, when things go tough, like you're in the trenches with somebody, it can get hard.
For sure. So I think there's something to be said to having your off-court life and then having your on-court life. And those two start blending together. It's not the easiest thing mentally to handle. So I know a lot of the people listening out there probably love to share that bond with their significant other, whether it's rec games, tournaments, whatever. So just wanted to bring that up, that while it's great, you kind of know where that player is going to be, the intricacies and the ins and out of that person. Sometimes that is actually detrimental once you get on the court. We see it with the Newmans. They know exactly where they are. They don't even have to call switches. Sometimes the player's right there, and then they go to timeouts and they're 400 yards away from each other. They don't want to be near their sibling at all. So, just something that I saw a little bit in the gold medal match with the Johnsons. It's tough. I mean, not only are they siblings, they're kids. So to that mental factor is so huge. While they're obviously immensely physically talented, I have no doubt that being together, practicing together, being siblings at times can be trying for them when they're on the court together.
They've played a fair amount of tournaments this year too. It's a lot of pickleball.
Man, they have to be a little burned out. Like I
don't care how young you are. Like that's mentally taxing.
Yeah, they're kids. They're kids. Physically, they're out there, they're playing. And the thing is they're, maybe 6 months ago they were randomly going 2-2 in a tournament, or randomly going maybe even 1-2 in a tournament a year ago. Now they're running deep constantly. They're playing 4 events because they're playing 3 events and a championship Sunday. They're playing PPAs, they're playing APPs, they're playing MLPs, they're playing it all. There has to be some mental burnout, just like you said, Rob.
Yeah. Which there's not a ton of breaks in pickleball, really. I mean, you have an opportunity to play most weekends, right? And it feels like they're choosing to play most weekends. So be curious to see what schedules look like next year with all the tours and MLP having a few more events, it sounds like. But if we're looking at, I think beginning of this year, I think we counted them out and they were close to, I don't know if it stood like this, but I think there were 50 tournaments between the APP and PPA. I don't know if that actually played out. But even if it didn't play out to 50, it's still damn near 40 or 40 plus. So that's just a lot of opportunities to play pickleball week in and week out. And, it may not always be best for the long run to choose to play nearly every weekend. Yeah.
Like I said, especially when you're running deep, total different ball game. I mean, I had some short days here in Chicago this last weekend, but when you're playing 8 or 9 a.m. till 4 to 7 p.m. in that range.
Yeah.
Even with not playing the last couple matches of the tournament and then being on championship Sunday, or the last match of the tournament being on championship Sunday, it's still a ridiculously long day. And for 4 days in a row, and it has to has to be taxing, whether you're 15, 19, or 40. It's just not something that you can play 100% your best at all of these events when you're playing that many.
Yeah, no, totally. And I don't know if you had more to talk about Chicago, but neither here nor there. On that note of playing more tournaments, we got a PPA so we have the Atlanta APP next weekend, as well as the Cincinnati PPA, which is a Grand Slam, I believe. But the following weekend, so 2 weekends from now, is at an Atlanta PPA. So you have the Atlanta APP this upcoming, and then the PPA comes into town in Atlanta the following. And I just took a quick look at the men's pro draw, and it looks like we have JW and Dylan that'll stick around and play the PPA in Atlanta. So I know everybody out there, especially everybody listening, is going to be super pumped to see that. You know, it's always what we talk about in terms of there's not, JW's not playing a lot of PPAs. And we have JW and Dylan playing the PPA. So I'm assuming JW is going to be playing singles, and people are still stoked on the Ben Johns and JW match from the US Open in singles, where, JW had it on his racket or had it on his paddle for much of the match. So I think, it's going to be a couple exciting weeks of pickleball coming up. And yeah, we kind of get to see the APP and PPA collide again.
Yeah, and that's always fun. So yeah, I agree with you. The upcoming weekend to have the double dip, an APP and a PPA, and let's scroll through. As you mentioned, we do have Dylan and JW. Let's see.
Which tournament are you looking at?
This is the PPA in Atlanta. So not this upcoming weekend, but basically around a week and a half from today. We have AJ Kohler without a partner. I would imagine that will be Thomas Wilson.
Yeah.
And we have the reemergence of Canada's finest, Steve Deacon, the Beaver. The Beaver is jumping in action with Patrick Smith. So excited to see him back, which has been, it's been ridiculous.
Dude, it's been a minute.
It's been like 18 months or something like that for Steve Deacon.
Maybe his last match was when Pat Smith and I played him and Colin at the PPA in Orlando. And Pat hits the ball pretty hard. And Pat hit a forehand that it somehow like caught Steve right in the wrist. This was in game 2, I think. And Steve dropped his paddle and then was just like grimacing, gripping it, proceeds to, retire from the match, pick up his paddle, walk off the court, and is just wailing the paddle on the ground. Letting it all out. So that might have been his last match. I'm not sure, but one of the better guys, just one of my favorite guys on tour. Super, super kind, super nice, great player. Excited to have him back on tour, and really pumped to tune in and watch him play. It's been a while, and I would, I know he's on the older side of the pro game, late 40s, but dude has some of the fastest hands in the game, and which is, I think, an amazing thing about pickleball is that you can be in your 40s and still have some of the fastest hands in the game. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this is, that was his nickname before Canada's finest or the Beaver. It was Steve Podium Deacon. He's just a rock out there.
Yeah,
he makes good decisions, consistent, makes good decisions, kind of. One of those players we talk about all the time that is the same level as some of the flashy guys. He just does it in an even keel way without the peaks and valleys. So really excited to see him back in there. We have, let's see here. We have Callan Dawson not teamed up with anyone. And we have Julian Arnold and Federico Staksrud, a little more known for their singles prowess. Yeah. But both players improving their singles doubles game. So we'll see if they can, maybe a long shot for them to medal, but maybe ruin someone's day, as I like to say.
So you have Callan not listed with a partner and Kohler not listed with a partner. That would be a fun partnership, actually. Callan on the right side, Kohler on the left, just lob city. Let's go.
and they've played together before, so they played together a couple times. Actually, we ended up losing to them in Hilton Head last year.
Yes,
remember when you carried me to a medal after I vomited? Yeah. So God, maybe this happens to me more than I.
I do remember that.
Yeah, we beat Jay and Pat, and I remember Jay about as pissed off as I've ever seen him because
you were yakking like your whole body weight 4 minutes before the match. You were in the corner just.
Yeah, well, like I said, I watched back. I thought I lit Jay up, and I watched back through the match, and sure enough, it was you doing most of the lighting. So, but either way, to beat that team after not being at 100%, which was pretty cool. But we ended up losing to Callan and Kohler in the next match. So yeah, we'll see if they get matched up or whatever the case may be. So that really looks at only two. Really one, JW and Dylan, maybe with an opportunity to win the tournament, and then maybe Federico and Julian can upset someone. I do believe that would be a long shot to medal though. So let's see.
How's Fed coming along in the doubles game?
I didn't get to see him either the days that I was playing or the commentary days. I know that it was unfortunate because I believe that Pablo Tellez had a personal issue. So they had to pull out of the men's draw. So he didn't get to play his full bracket in the men's. And then in mixed, he played with Simone. And like I said, I know that they made it to the quarterfinals, lost to Hunter and Vivian. And then I'm not sure what happened after that. They just did not make it to the medal rounds. So Let's take a look at the mixed real fast just to see if there's anything funky going on there. And as we mentioned, this is the PPA following the APP.
Yeah, I think it's the Peachtree Classic PPA.
That's exactly right. So we have Dylan not signed up in mixed. We have the classic PPA combos of Jay Devilliers, Jesse Irvine, AJ Kohler, Callie Smith, Matt and Lucy, Riley and Catherine. So Riley not with his sister in this one. And then I'm not sure if I've seen this matchup before. Tyler Loong and Leia Jansen. Have you seen that matchup before?
Not that I remember.
Yeah, there you go.
Happened.
Right. So, and then we have Anna Bright not signed up either. I would imagine that Anna Bright and Dylan are going to get together for that one. And that could be interesting. That could be an interesting one to watch against some of the, more established PPA teams. That fresh partnership, talented partnership of Dylan and Anna possibly doing some damage in that bracket.
No doubt.
Oh, we have Irina and Steve Deacon. Interesting. Let's see. Oh, Colin Johns and Lena Padigamayete.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see Stevie D play some mixed. I believe the mixed game's changed a little bit. It hasn't been very long, but Steve's always been, not necessarily taking a ton of court and moving a ton, just very solid and, not very attackable and picks good spots to attack, especially the female who's right in front of him typically. But we have, you look at even like Dylan and Anna, like very young athletic team. It'll be interesting to see how Stevie D holds up in mixed with that style versus kind of the new style of, athletic, aggressive. And I think there's going to be a lot of fun storylines to keep an eye on.
For sure, Rob. And that's exactly what Steve is. He's more of a 60-40 mixed guy, where he's not taking 3/4 of the court. He just can't do it with some of his movement and age. So, but he's had some great results, and he had a lot of teaming up with Catherine Parento, around 18 months or 2 years ago. And they made a lot of podiums. So, so you're totally right in the fact that it has just gotten more and more athletic, especially on the mixed side. Let's see if a veteran mixed player who's had a lot of results, but isn't that physical presence. Let's see kind of what kind of tournament he can have being that kind of player.
Who's his partner in mixed again?
Irina Tereshchenko.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. And then we have here's an interesting matchup. Lacey Schneeman, who jumped in for MLP and had some really good results, but very much an unknown. She is patricking up with Patrick Smith. So she's partnering up with Patrick Smith. That could be an interesting one. We have Mary Brascia and Federico Staksrud.
Okay.
That could be interesting as well. And my God, the teams just keep going. So that's 28 teams. A couple interesting ones there for mixed.
And it's wild with mixed. Like mixed is, we talk about the APP singles field being wildly deep. Mixed is so deep now too, right? Like there's so many good players. It's
yes.
It's really tough out there.
Yeah, let's see. I'm going to look just briefly at the women's pro doubles for that event and see if anything interesting is there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have Anna playing with somebody.
Anna playing with Jesse Urban.
Okay, yeah, of course.
They've done a little bit of that. We have the classic Elise Jones and Dijon Mustard, Megan Dijon Mustard, Lucy and Callie, of course, Leia and Catherine. We have, and that is about it. Oh, Schneeman and Brascia. That could be an interesting. And we have Irina signed up with no one. So only 14 teams signed up. And to be honest, a couple of the teams I have never heard of before. Yeah. So looks pretty standard on the women's side, but some interesting stuff on the men's and mixed for sure.
Dude, what do we have to do to make it more interesting? Like just not a whole, like it'll be interesting to watch some of those matches, but it's pretty repetitive, to be honest. And I wasn't around when this tournament happened in the past.
Triple Crown, say it, Rob.
You knew exactly where I was going.
Oh, I knew exactly where you're
going. And it's super important. I think it's super important to keep, one for the players, right? To be able to mix it up and play with different partners. And, we've gotten pretty cool value out of MLP by seeing new matchups and stuff. But on a tournament level, to be able to play with multiple partners in the same event in multiple days, super fun and super exciting to watch. Like people love that stuff.
Yeah. So what my good pal Robert is saying is that a couple years ago, probably a few years ago, 3+ years ago, they had a triple crown tournament in Simi Valley, California, where you play gender doubles all 3 days and you cannot have the same partner on any of those days. And I think that is a great idea. Obviously, not something that is going to be in every tournament thing, but why not have a couple times a year, whether it's 2 tournaments on both tours or whatever the case may be, to have that format where you get different looks. You're not just beating your head against the wall with the same matchups. You get different looks, different storylines, and I think that would be a phenomenal idea and something to kind of mix it up.
Yeah. No, I think
one of my favorite
needs to make it happen.
Somebody needs to make it happen. One of my favorite tournaments. It was so
I've only
good.
Heard amazing things about it. Like people loved it.
Yeah, for sure. So I like that idea, and I
got to find you a good comment from a guy that talked about like the monotonous of some of the matchups that we have. Talk about something important while I find this.
Oh, me talk about something.
Yeah,
important.
no pressure.
No pressure at all.
You feel the pressure.
Yeah, so I do feel the pressure, but that Triple Crown tournament has definitely it's got a place in my heart. Kind of got some of my first good partners there, and I just remember, the differences. It's just like, oh, we've never seen anything like this before. In this matchup, we have someone who is always playing with the best player now kind of dipping into the middle of the player pool. And so it kind of shows their versatility and if they are really on that level, or how much was their great partner helping them throughout these tournaments. Yeah. Can they carry a lower player to a medal or whatever the case may be? So, as you mentioned earlier, we got for sure 40 plus, if not 50 plus of these tournaments. And as this becomes more lucrative and you have more players constantly playing together and setting up their schedules, year in advance plus, there's a chance it could get more and more monotonous and more consistent with the same matchups, which can be good in some regards with rivalries, but I think overall is probably not awesome for the overall viewership out there.
Beautifully said, honestly. I found the comment. So
okay, let's hear it.
AMAC316, and it's in relation to me posting a tweet about pro pickleball should be a team-based league, not a tennis style tournament,
right?
Yearly thing. So he said, I've got an even better idea. Let's make it so that the 1 to 4 seeds are so stacked that they are the only ones that play every single championship Sunday. These same exact teams will play each other dozens of times and know each other so well that every point ends up playing through the same exact pattern, and the results will be the same 95% of the time. We will keep running these exact same combinations on the exact same court type with the exact same ball until all the teams losing hate their partners and all the teams winning get visibly bored on court. We will also sign all the players to exclusive deals so we can trap them in this boring vortex for 3 years, completely halting any other tour actively trying to grow the sport. The PPA, probably.
That's good stuff. Say that screen name again. Say that screen name again.
That's a world-class comment. AMAC, AMAK 316.
AMAC. That makes me. I recognize that screen name as a poker player, being Amit Makija, I believe it is.
And he is a poker player. His profile is at a poker table.
Oh, there you go. So I actually have been personally messaged by this guy. As I told you, there is a huge buzz in the poker community about pickleball. Yep. And so that is interesting that he kind of broke it down like a poker player in that comment,
it's a very smart comment. It's a very smart comment. Yeah.
So that is funny. So hopefully if that guy's listening, message me. I think it's Amit Makija, I believe is his actual name. And that's a screen name. And he's been a poker player for a very long time. And I know he's a pickleball enthusiast. So yeah, I mean, he said it well. He said it well.
Yeah.
It's kind of, maybe we're not exactly in that vortex yet, but we're creeping right up on it, aren't we, Rob?
We are. It's that's why I think, variety is good. That's why I think what MLP is doing is good. I think a Triple Crown tournament would be epic. I like men's doubles as my favorite event. Would you say most guys prefer men's doubles, generally speaking?
Well, Rob, you know what the best practice for mixed doubles is? men's doubles.
One of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes as well. It's by far my favorite, and I'm obviously, a little physically limited with some shots and some size, and so I'm definitely a better men's player than mixed player. But I just like. I like the patterns and the chess match and the everyone being pretty equal on court in terms of physicality and level, and so I definitely prefer gender doubles to mixed, but I'm a little biased because I'm just not that good at mixed.
I haven't spoken with any women about it, but would you say most women also prefer gender doubles? Like, what about Prof?
Prof definitely prefers gender doubles, but she's better at gender doubles as well. She's had much better results. Prof, super solid, but occasionally can go on stretches of getting lit up, kind of like myself. So that is less likely to happen. Of course, it can still happen, women, but less likely to happen in gender than in mixed when she's playing a guy. So she prefers it as well. And I would, I obviously haven't talked to everyone about this, but I would be shocked if the percentage isn't higher of people that prefer gender doubles to mixed.
Yeah. So I mean, if most players prefer it, some tournament director out there should at least do it. Have 3 days of women's gender doubles, 3 days of men's gender doubles, different partners every single day. How exciting and how fun would that be to break down? Imagine NML's blog post on that. They would have a field day. It'd be so fun.
We would have a field day.
Oh,
everyone would have a field day. I can already sense the Dink making a nice little clip about this, us reposting it and getting some buzz for this Triple Crown for both genders.
Yep. It's going to happen. Now that we've put it out in the universe, Adam, we're manifesting reality right now.
Yes, that is true, Robert. And looks like up in my little left corner, we're creeping on 90 minutes here. I know we had a short break in there, but while this podcast often feels right, I think maybe ending this podcast soon would feel right as well. Rob, what do you think about that?
It feels right to me.
But it's great coverage there. And I wanted to mention also that we have talked about doing our personal rankings for some of the categories. We're gonna focus on some men doubles, focus on some women's doubles, do some mixed doubles and some singles. And I think that with our next episode, we might touch on and we're not going to do, the top 5 rankings or the top 10, which is
we go in deep.
We go in deep, which is often very chalky and very obvious. We're gonna dig deep into 20 or 25 of some of the players in these categories. And deeper. Yeah, you can go as deep as you would like, Robert. And that will be on tap for our next episode, which we will jump on sometime next week. Night.
Because you know why? Why? Because it feels right. It feels right.
Legendary.